Hey friends, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today I am going to show you how to make a design board for quilt blocks. And what makes this design board different is that we're not going to use any hot glue or any quilt batting. We are going to be using our sewing machine. So stick around if you want to see how I make my quilt block design boards. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make this board right here. I am going to show you how to make it without using hot glue, without using batting, but using the tools you already have in your sewing room. And I think you're really going to like it. You know, we're sewers, we're quilters. We have the tools to make these. I looked online and the price of a design board can be $23 or $24 for either a 12 or a 14-inch board. And that's a lot of money when you need lots of boards. So why not make your own and save your money to buy more fabric? This board right here is going to end up measuring 20 by 15. And it costs less than $2 to make this one right here. And everything I used was basically things that I had in my sewing room and that were scraps already. So I'm going to show you how that's done, and I hope you enjoy this video. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I will be showing you all the boards that I was able to make with less than 2 foam boards. Here is the design board tutorial. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to need to purchase some of this foam board, and you can get this at Dollar General, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, any of those places like that. It's in the poster board section, and this is half of a sheet, and I believe I got this at Dollar General, and I think I saw a price tag on here. It was $1.99, and again, it's double this size, and this size right here is about 20 by 15, so it must have been 20 by 30. I think that's, let me see which side I cut on. Yeah, it would have been 20 by 30. Now you can make a perfect square out of this and have a nice square. Lori Holt has hers that she makes, but you know, why make a square? I tend to need bigger ones for bigger blocks, and you can make any size you want, but I like to, if I'm going to buy one of these boards, I'm going to use the whole thing. And so I'm just going to do a rectangle out of it, because if I make my block up here, I might have the pieces down here that I can kind of be putting it together. And I don't have a design wall yet in my sewing room, so this sometimes can work as a design wall. I do have one that's a full-size board that I'm going to replace and make a new one because it was made with the batting too. But and I do like the full-size one. I can tilt it on its edge and kind of let it stand up straight next to my sewing machine and place pieces on it. And also it's nice to have when I've got all the pieces for quilts kind of all stacked on it, and I can carry it around like that in my sewing room. But I'm just going to make one that is half of the sheet of board. Now you can make any size you want. These directions will work for whatever size you're making. So what I've done is I have found some flannel that I had left over from the backing of a quilt, and it's just white. And I laid my board on it. And I just drew the lines. So I'm just cutting it the same size as the board. Now, if you wanted to cut it just a hair more, that's fine. It really doesn't matter. Your binding's going to cover up the edges anyway. So now I'm going to take a rotary cutter, and I'm just going to cut this, and then I'm going to bring you back. Oh, and before I bring you back, whenever you're deciding on the fabric that you're going to use for the background of your board, if you're using your scraps, use whatever you have. If you have to go purchase something, I would tell you, I would stick with a solid. If you have a print fabric, that'll work just fine. But sometimes when you're laying a block on there and you want to see what it looks like, you don't have any distractions if you have a solid color behind there. If there's a lot of designs in the background, it can be a little bit distracting. So if you have solid flannel, I would choose that first. If you have to go purchase some flannel, I would purchase something that's solid. And it's too bad that Joann's is no longer open, and I guess they are, but I don't know what's available still, because they used to have really inexpensive flannel, and it was nice to be able to get it for projects like this. So, but I just have a scrap, and I'm going to use my scraps. So I'm going to bring you back after I get this cut, and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, so now I have my piece of flannel, and it fits right on top of there. And what I had done in the past was use a little bit of super glue and just kind of drizzled it on the back and then pushed it down. There was always this little bead of glue that I could feel when I touched it. And again, it's not going to mess up the functionality of this, but you know, if you're going to take the time to make it, you might want to make it so that it looks a little nicer. So I think what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to use the Elmer's Glue All. This is not the school glue. The school glue is washable and it can be washed out of things. This is a multi-purpose glue for your household, and once it hardens, it will stay. It won't be able to be washed out. It's a little sturdier. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this off, and I have taken a sponge brush and I have put it in some water and then squeezed it out just gently so it's not dripping or anything. And if I do this, it doesn't splatter. It's just damp. And I want it damp because this glue is a little bit thicker than I would like. And I am just going to put some of this glue on my brush, and I am going to put this on my board in a real thin coat. Now, I do want you to focus on the edges, because when I was making my first one, I noticed that if I didn't get the edges on good, that the flannel picked up when I was putting my binding on it. So this, go ahead and get the edges nice and smooth. Again, you don't want to have it clumped up. It's going to dry really super quick, especially if you have dry weather or it's nice and warm. And that's why I dampened my sponge brush, because I did not want it to dry out too fast. I wanted to be able to spread this out. And again, just a real light coat, real light coat. It takes longer for the glue to get to the brush. Everything's going to be dry. You don't want any puddles. Okay, working real quickly. Let's lay this on there. And you can lift it up and readjust. Okay, I think I got it on there pretty good. If you have a little bit of the board peeking out, it's fine. Again, we're gonna have about 1/2 of an inch of binding overlapping that edge. Okay, we're just wanting to kind of get this down. And there may be something else that you can think of. You could probably use a good spray adhesive. You could probably use a quilter spray adhesive for batting. I think that's more temporary though, but you could use it just to get it down, and then it's okay if it's loose after that. But I like to get the whole thing down. Okay, so now what we need to do, I'm going to set this aside and let it dry just a little bit. We need to make the binding. And so what I'm going to do, since I don't want to spend a lot of money on my project boards, I am just going to go to my binding bucket, and this is just the leftover ends of my binding from different quilts and projects. And I think I'm going to go with red. I've got several reds here. And I want 2.5 inch width of strip bindings. So if you have scrap bindings, grab you some of those. If you have a jelly roll strip, grab you enough to go around your board, whatever size you're making. Okay, so I've got all of these that are red. So let's see. I think I could get by. Bring my board over here. Just needs to go all the way around with a little bit of wiggle room. That one goes once, and that goes that way. And then we need overlap. I think I can get with these 2 pieces right here. That looks like I have plenty. Let me see if I can show you what I got. Okay, so it looks like when I put this on, I'm gonna have just the right amount. I'm gonna have about, that looks like 8 inches of overhang, and I think that should do us. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, this has already been pieced together. This one right here has a piece right there. So I'm gonna keep that at the end. That I hope will get cut off. And this one I don't think I've sewn together yet. So I've got 2 pieces here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put right sides together, open them up, right sides together, just like that. And I wanna match up this edge and this edge. Get you a little closer. So I'm going to pin at the top here, and I'm going to pin at the bottom corner here. And then we're going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. So here's this corner. Underneath here is the corner for this other strip. And so I'm going to go from that point to the corner, just like this. And I always like to think of this as the capital letter A, and you cross it like this. And when you do it that way, when you flip this open, it will be going the same direction, and it will have a nice seam, and all of your pieces will join exactly right. So let me give this a stitch right here, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, so I have stitched across this line right here, and when I open it, it has a really nice straight line where they're connected. If yours is not straight and it's wonky, you can take it apart and try again. If it's going the wrong way and it didn't open up correctly, check that you followed the directions that I just shared with you, and make sure your pieces are right sides together and you have that line going across like the capital letter A. Okay, so now what we can do is we can cut this corner off, and just cut it 1/4 of an inch away from that seam. And we are going to press that seam open just to reduce the bulk in our binding. And then we're gonna go ahead and give it just another little press. This has already been pressed in half. I'm just gonna press it right here, and then I'm gonna show you how we press this for our binding. But you do wanna, first of all, get a middle crease like I have on this one. When I open it up, there is a crease right down the middle, and that tells us where the middle of this fabric is. So you do need to press it this way if you haven't done so, if this was not like a piece of scrap binding that you had. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so here I have my binding all finished, and here's where I put them together and pressed, and then I pressed it in half. Now what we're gonna do is we are going to take and we're going to press this binding toward the center. So this crease right here is the center of this binding, and so we're going to take the top edge of the binding and bring it right down to the center. And then we're going to take this bottom piece right here, bring it to the center, and we are going to do this whole piece just like that. So now after I have it folded all the raw edges to the middle, I'm just going to fold it in half and give it a nice crease. We want that center crease to be really nice and clear when we put it on our board. That way it will be centered and both sides of the board will have equal amount of binding. Okay, so now we have it all pressed it in half. So we're ready to put it on our board. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do before we add our binding, this is the back, this is just the paper side. We are going to take our ruler and we are going to make a line that is 1/2 an inch away from that edge. So you wanna line that up and you wanna just draw that line. Now I am using a friction pen, so it will erase with heat, and it doesn't matter on the back of this board, but on the front when we do it on the flannel, you want to have something that is not going to be seen if you don't get it overlapped exactly. Let's see, did I do that one too? Oops, I did that one 1 inch. Okay, so I'm going to do another line here. So 1/2 an inch. And this works the best if you had a nice straight edge when you cut it. Let me see, mine is not quite straight here, so I might go over and cut this a little straighter. I'll be right back. Okay, that one's a little straighter. When you cut this, I use an old rotary cutter, an old blade, and that one I just got wonky. So let's go over here and add 1/2 an inch line. It is a beautiful day today. We had thunderstorms this morning, woke up to severe weather, thundering and raining, dark, and now those clouds have blown mostly away. We've got some nice pretty white ones out there, and the birds have been singing all day, And the windows are open and it's beautiful. I think it's gonna be 72 or something like that today. So we're gonna take that. Now we're gonna turn this over to our fabric side. And we're gonna do the same thing. And again, if you have something that is not permanent, I would suggest using that. If all you have is something permanent, do it lightly, or maybe a light sharp pencil. That way it won't show up if you don't get it covered completely. My little space here is kind of tight. I have a cutting table right next to this, but I have a lot of stuff that I'm working on it right now. And I have to move my camera to put you over there, and so it's kind of a hassle to do. Maybe someday I'll have more than one camera. Okay, so we've got our 1/2-inch lines all the way around on both sides. Now we're going to take our binding, and this is kind of like putting binding on a quilt or a placemat or a small wall hanging. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it on the front first because that's the side that I want to look the nicest. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open it up to where the insides are to the center. So the reason we did our binding this way, and it's not the same as what we usually do for our binding, or the way I usually do my binding, is I wanted to have 2 edges that were finished. And so both of these edges are folded over, and so they're both finished. So when I lay it down like this and put it on both sides, it is finished looking all the way around. So what we're going to do is take a little of our school glue. This is just a glue stick, and you can also use a glue stick or sewing glue or anything that your sewing machine needle can go through without getting gunked up. So there's a lot of products that are specifically designed for this, but I like the good old washable Elmer's school glue. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to put the glue on the portion that has the line on the outside of that line. And just like in a quilt, we're going to start stitching right here. So we're going to put a little tail. I'm going to leave about a quarter. If I divided this into 4 pieces, a quarter open over here, let the tail go across 2 quarters, and then this last quarter over here, I am going to glue down. So we'll have some overlap there. And so all I'm doing is gluing this down. Now, if I want, I can turn it around right here and go ahead and do just that quarter of the board, just like I did on the front. And you're just going to pull it down to that line. See if you can see that. So I've just pulled it down to the line, and then we're just going to press it straight up, just like that. Okay. And if you wanted to, you could take some clips. It's holding pretty good actually, but you could take some clips to help out here. So I'm going to flip it back over because I'm going to make my corner on the front first, because this is the side that I want to look the best. And I'm also going to be using this little stiletto, and as you see, as we turned it around, it kind of slid off over here. So let's get that back on there, and I just want to make sure that that is all the way up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to take and we're going to keep going like this. So I'm going to put some glue right here, and then right here, this is going to be, and what I can do is I can do it like this. So, let me get you in here. So if I bring it straight up, put this down, and then bring this over, and I need to pull it back here so that it doesn't get too much on this side, and just miter that corner. And like I said, this little stiletto here gets it right on the spot. And again, just make sure you're just right on that line, because otherwise you'll be making it shorter on the back, and you don't want to do that. And then I'm going to stick, I think I'm going to put a little glue right underneath the mitered corner. And then I'm going to put a clip on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on down, and then we'll flip it. Whoops, this one's about out. I'm going to have to get another one. I actually like the bigger ones better because they last a lot longer. It seems like these little ones, they aren't putting very much in it at all, which is sad. You think you have a whole lot of glue in there, and I bet there's only a half or so full. Okay, turn it over. I usually buy these in packs of 5 or something, and I do know if I can find a link, I will put it in my description box. They do sell bigger quantities on Amazon where you can get it in bulk, and they're pretty inexpensive, especially when you compare them to any other type of sewing glue. And again, using your stiletto, you can pull that down. Okay, and so I hope you can see the nice mitered corner there. Let's turn it back. Well, let's go ahead and just, since we're on this side, let's just go on, and we won't do the corner on this one, but we can get it glued down here. So let's glue that just to the line. And the nice thing about the school glue is that if you need to move it, you just pull it up and move it and re-glue it. It's not a permanent hold. I think I'll have to get my other, I've got several. Now I've heard people say, and I haven't tried, but some people say that Elmer's works better than any of the other ones. The other ones don't work as well, so I don't know if that's true, but I've always used Elmer's and it does work good. And just kind of look to see if it's getting straight, and it is. Okay, so then we're going to go this way. So let me get my glue. Put some at the corner. And you might be saying, oh, it's purple. Well, it's purple when it's wet, but it will dry clear. And sometimes if you have it underneath something light and it gets damp, that purple might come back if you haven't washed it out. But it will go away once it dries. Flip it over. Whoops. I just about knocked you over. one came loose. No, it didn't. I just hadn't glued it yet. I'm just going to go all the way down. And if you want it to look nice, stay right on that line. That'll keep it looking even. And just lift it up and reposition if it's not right. It's a little trickier doing this with the camera right in front of you, but we're gonna make it work. Trying to keep it in your view and still have it so that I can pull it. So I noticed when I was pulling a while ago, it looked like it was larger than it needed to be, so I'm gonna come back over here and pull it back. Put a little glue on it. Okay. I think I'll just go ahead. I'll have this piece right here, the one that's glued down all the way. Now we can't do what we would normally do with the quilt and sew them together because this doesn't bend, and when you do that you need it the quilt to bend. So we're going to have to do it this way. Put that on there. And I'm just gluing all the way down. Okay, now to finish it off, we are going to give this, probably, an inch and a half or 2 inches overlap. So this overlaps about 1.5 inches or 2 inches. And I'm going to open this one up right here, and I am going to put some glue across that top that we just cut, and I am going to fold this about 1/2 inch to 1 inch, just as long as you have enough to overlap. And then I'm going to finish gluing this down. So you want to make sure that all those raw edges are tucked in. So I think I'm going to put a little glue here and glue that down, and put a little glue here and glue that down. Okay. Then we're going to take and finish it off. So we're going to go from here, and then we're going to put glue on top, however far it needs to go out, and we're going to give it a nice little tug so it's tight. And then we're going to flip it over. Do the same over here. Whoops. Make sure that everything gets tucked under. and we are good. Okay, so I have that all the way done around. This is the flannel side. And I'm going to let it dry for just a minute. And while it is drying, I am going to get my machine threaded for a binding top stitch. And since this is red, I'm going to put red on my sewing machine, red thread in the bobbin and on the spool. And so I'm going to match that thread up and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so I think it's dried. I've taken my clips off and now I am ready to sew it. What I'm going to do is I am going to use my needle and I'm going to try to stitch as close as I can to this edge right here, and it should catch underneath because I should have a 1/2 inch on both sides. Now the needle that I'm using is a quilting needle. It's a 9014, and this is one that we had in our sew sampler box. It is a chrome professional grade. It's just a nicer steel. I think it's probably stays sharp a little longer. I'm not sure what the chrome does, but it's a nicer metal, I believe. And so this is a 9014. And so what you want is you want something sharp enough, but you also want something sturdy enough, because we want to go through this board, but we also want to, you know, be sure that our fabric is stitched nicely. The other thing, I'm just using cotton thread like I use on all my quilts and things. I am going to change my stitch length and increase it. Normally on my machine, it is 2.4, so I'm going to move that up to 2.8, and that will help feed it through a little nicer. And so I'm going to bring you down so that you can see me stitching it. And remember, when you're stitching, that needle is puncturing your board. And if you have your stitches too close together, you're basically cutting that board because you have very little space in between, and so that weakens the board. So you want to have a big enough space between stitches, but yet you want it to be sturdy enough and look nice. I'm not going to be using a reverse stitch because I don't want to go over it more than once. So when I come to the end, I will just go over about 1 inch from where I started, and that way it'll lock it in. All right, let me move you down. Okay, and so I also am going to be using the stiletto sometimes just to kind of hold things in place and push my board a little bit, and that will keep my fingers from getting run over by the sewing machine. I am just going to pick a spot here on the long side. I think I'm going to do it down here toward the corner. I am going to be bringing, let's see, I think, trying to decide how I want to do this. I am thinking that I'm going to move my needle and have my board at the edge of this side of my presser foot. In fact, I could also just put a guard in here so that it never goes past this, that it'll hold it at the right spot. Okay, like that. Okay, so then I have something to push my board against, or at least keep it from going in or out this way. Okay, now it looks like when I look at it, I am just a little bit off of the fold, so it looks like that's a good distance to sew on. So I'm going to turn my sewing machine down a little bit so I'm not going too fast. And again, I have lengthened my stitch, And let's see what we can do. And you don't want to push it, but you do want to just make sure it is feeding. And on the corners, be careful because sometimes the back or underneath here, that mitered corner might come loose and then unfold and come this way. So you might just kind of keep your eye on that. Again, since we're doing it on the top, our top should look nice, and that's really the only side that we will need to look nice actually. And actually, we don't even need it to look nice. Again, this is just a functional board. But we always like to have nice looking things in our sewing room, don't we? All right, so I went all the way until I came to the edge of this side of my binding, and then I pivoted. I kept my needle in, and I just moved this and pivoted. Here we go. And any place that I see it's not covering up that line, I'm just going to use my stiletto and just pull it over as I sew. I'm just going to step in real quickly on this video. When I made my next boards, I realized that if I turned my mitered corners the other direction, they would not get hung up as I was coming to them. So that might be something you want to do if you're making these. Just flip and make sure your mitered corners are turned the direction that you will be sewing. Now, as long as my needle is going on the outside of that line, I should be getting the back end binding stitched as well. So it'll be interesting to see how we do when we turn it. Okay, so I just hit that binding right there and then lift it up. Keep my needle in. Oops. Okay, so I noticed right here, underneath here, I can see my binding, my mitered corner has flipped. So I'm going to try to stick that back in. Let's lift the presser foot a little bit. If I need to, I can take it off and fix it, but I think I can adjust it from right here. Just getting my stiletto underneath it. Hopefully that got it. And then my presser foot needs to go back down. And if you have a presser foot that goes a little farther up when you pull it, that will work really good on this because this is a pretty thick board. And you also, before you start doing this, you might want to check and see that your sewing machine will sew through this board. I'm just looking underneath there, making sure I've got that turned under. Hopefully I do. I can always go back and mess with it when we're done, if not. And again, that is the back, so we're not as concerned. Like I said, said, if you don't know for sure if your sewing machine can feed and sew this board before you start, take a piece of this board, just a little piece, or just take a piece that you're getting ready to work on and just stick it under the presser foot and see if your sewing machine will sew without skipping stitches. Most sewing machines, if there's a problem, will skip stitches. And then you might want to check your needle. If it's skipping stitches, maybe your needle's not long enough or something's wrong with the needle. Try a different needle. Okay, and then this one right here is doing the same thing. My mitered corner is trying to flip backwards. So let me get that. Okay, see if that works. Oops, there it goes again. You might just really glue those mitered corners down a little better. I'm going to pull this up for a second because I think that it's flipped. And we'll put it back, and I'll just go start back about 1/2 inch and sew over the stitches that I just did. Again, you don't want to do that too much because you don't want to damage your board. And it's still it's just wanting to push that mitered corner. Let me flip this over. Let's cut this. So you can see that this came loose, and that's why it's doing that. It's wanting to flip like that when it goes over. So let's stick a little glue on it. And I'm gonna let that dry for just a minute. I'll bring you right back. Okay, so I've got that corner glued down now, it's dry. So let's put it back in there. Press your foot up, but needle stays down. And then we come to where we started, and I'm just going to go over it about 1/2 inch or an inch. And we should be good. So here is our board, and I'll give you a close-up of our stitches. That worked a lot nicer. Just took a little bit of time gluing it down, but not much. Sewing it down was quite easy as long as you have your corners glued down well. And so the next one I make, I'll just make sure before I get started my corners are secure. Whoops. So that looks real well. Let's flip it over and see what the back looks like. It looks like our corners sewed down very nicely. This one right here looks like it puckered just a little bit. I'm not going to take it out. That's fine. If it were flipped all the way back and you wanted to take it out, just take out a few stitches and then lay it back down, glue it down, and you might want to stitch just a little bit above where you stitched before or a little bit below. That way you won't be going over the same area again and possibly cutting your board. So the back looks good too. I see all of the binding is sewn down. There's nothing that is not sewn down. So it captured all of the binding. Very good. Well, I think This is going to make a really nice, let me vacuum these threads off. A really nice board, and let's try a block on it. If you put a block on it, you have to hit it pretty hard to get it to come off. It's secure. There it is, just straight up and down, and it's staying on. So it doesn't move, just like the batting. Here are all the boards that I was able to make today, and I have them all in various sizes. And you can see really tiny ones like this one, to big square ones like this one. And here's the one that I was showing you at the beginning. Let's see if I can get it out of there. Right there. And then I made another one. It looks like it's just a little bit smaller than this one, that is also rectangular. But let me see if I can set these down. There we go. Got kind of a little space here with the camera hanging over, and so I don't have a lot of room to move them. So you might be asking, what are you going to use this one for? Well, this one would be perfect for embroidery or cross stitching. The core board, the foam core board, you could actually stick your pins in. Just find it will actually hold a pin. You could put a needle in it and let your threads cling to the flannel. And this would be great to put in my little bag with my embroidery in it when I don't have a lot of space and I just need a little bag for it. So this one's great. This one would be fine too, and it would allow for more threads. But this one right here would be great for a 3 or 4 inch block. This one is 7.5 inches, and it would be great for a 6 inch or under block. We have a bigger one here, a bigger square, and then a bigger square, and then the 2 rectangular ones. I just want to show you, I left some threads on this one. Let's see if you can see them. Do you see them? Okay, and this is very easy to clean with a lint roller. Cleans so much nicer. Oops, and that one's actually stuck on there. It cleans so much nicer than the batting, and it stays nicer too. And remember, you can use whatever color flannel you want, but I do recommend solids will show your block better. But if you are just making them and have scraps of flannel in any colors, they would be really cute. They would be really cute. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you get a chance to make some design boards for yourself. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate that. Also, don't forget to like and share. That would help my channel out a lot. If you get a chance to make these design boards and you want to share a picture of them with us, go to my Facebook group at Blue Rooster Farm, and under the post that shares this video, in the comments, put a picture. I'd love to see it. And I think all of our viewers would love to see it too. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you back here soon. Bye-bye.